Real teaching is about helping people see their own light. And after walking through my own darkness with illness and uncertainty and so much fear, I understood that the best thing a teacher or a healer could do was to hold a light so that others can find their own way. I had to become the guide that I once searched for in both the classroom and in healing. So as a young teacher, I realized I needed to model the curiosity and the patience and the compassion that I craved when I was a student.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Desiree Caruso, Naturopathic Doctor, and I am interviewing my friend and colleague, Brandi Garden. She's the co-founder of Aversio Wellness and also the author of Healing Your Body, Mind, and Soul. Today, we are diving into Chapter 4, Becoming the Teacher You Needed. Brandi, this chapter opens with the quote, "The best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see." That is such a powerful idea and statement. I'm wondering, how has this truth shown up in your own healing journey, especially in the moments where you had to stop looking for answers outside of yourself and start trusting what you could see within?
I think healing begins when you stop outsourcing your wisdom. And for years, I kept looking for the next doctor, for the next drug, for the next expert who could fix me. But the turning point was when I realized no one else can see what I feel, could know what I need, walk this path for me. Teachers, healers, mentors, they can point the way, but ultimately healing happens when we trust what we see within ourselves. And I loved when that moment came for me.
You've always said that teaching has lit you up, and you write about this in the book. What were some of the reasons why, and what were your favorite things about being a teacher?
Well, I think teaching was about connection for me. And I loved that. And it was about curiosity, which I've always been a very curious person, and creating a safe space for growth, both my growth and the growth of the students that I was so lucky to share a classroom with. It lit me up because I got to witness those light bulb moments, the ahas. And I knew nothing about neuroscience back then, but now that I'm a bit of a neuroscience nerd and I know what was actually happening when those light bulb moments happened for children in my classroom, I mean, you're witnessing magic and miracles every single day, multiple times a day. When a child discovers something for the first time or when they feel truly seen, it is a real pleasure to witness that. So to me, teaching at its core isn't about just delivering information. It's about sparking wonder and helping someone believe in their own potential. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss that being part of my everyday.
You were really inspired by Robert Fulghum's metaphor of teaching as shining a light into dark places.
Yeah.
I really love that piece in the chapter where you mention his book. What does that mean to you now after your own journey through illness and then healing?
Yeah, I think teaching isn't about giving answers to people, right? That would be easy to do. We have AI now to do that.
Yeah.
To me, real teaching is about helping people see their own light. And after walking through my own darkness with illness and uncertainty and so much fear, I understood that the best thing a teacher or a healer could do was to hold a light so that others can find their own way. And that's what transformation really is. It's not giving people my answers, but helping them uncover their own truth. And that university time when I read that book and the metaphor was so profound. A professor gave me a little piece of mirror as a graduation gift when I got my teaching degree, and I still have that. And thinking about, walking through the world and not being the know-it-all, not having all the answers, but being able to find the light and then reflect it into the dark places. If we were all doing that for others all of the time, the world would be a really different place.
Yeah, you talk about that in teaching, but I think that is really special how you have continued to do that in life with friends and the office and community and everyone in general. And I think that's really the special part, is bringing that into life, everyday life. You describe this beautiful vision of your dream school. There's meditation, yoga, nature, creativity, and real food. What does that vision tell us about what's missing in the way we currently think about education and healing?
Yeah, we're teaching kids how to pass tests, not how to live well. And my dream school was about, teaching the whole human, the body, the mind, and the soul. And just imagine if meditation and yoga and time in nature and creativity and real food were as normal as math class. That's when the world will change. We would raise a generation who know how to regulate their emotions. This is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing we need in humanity, right? Emotional intelligence is not the norm. And it's where else are we going to learn it? But we have an opportunity to me in schools to teach kids emotional intelligence and how to regulate themselves and to listen to their bodies and to live with purpose, not just to chase grades, which I think I see still far too often.
Imagine a place, right? If that was a dream school and that was a
Every
reality.
day, I dream
Yeah.
of it every day. I'm manifesting.
You also write in this chapter that our education system is a one size fits all, which
Mm,
is just focused on tests as opposed to curiosity. And it even undervalues children with special needs.
yes.
How do you think this mirrors the way our health care
Mm.
system also misses the mark?
Wow, great question. I think both systems treat us as numbers, not as individuals. And that's not for everyone. I mean, many of my very close friends are teachers who are not this way, but I'm talking about the system they're working within. And I think all teachers and medical professionals feel that at some point, that they're kind of stuck under the system. And I think that both forget that curiosity and compassion are essential for growth in either way. Education today just tends to reduce children to these test scores too often, and healthcare reduces patients to their lab results. And I think there's similarities there. Both systems, the humanity gets lost. What we really need, both in classrooms and in clinics, is to see each person as unique and worthy and capable of growth. And that's why I love you, Dr. Des. That is why I would prefer to work with a naturopathic doctor who has the time to see me as this unique individual. And, just being in your presence, and of course, I've seen you in clinic too, I just walk away feeling capable of growth and evolution and transformation. And to me, that's what we're all here for.
Yeah. All of the parts are the sum of one, right? We are all encompassing. You write that every great teacher eventually realizes they must become the teacher they themselves always needed.
Yeah.
What did that look like for you?
I think Mark Groves was the first place I heard that quote, becoming the teacher you needed, for sure was me. I had to become the guide that I once searched for in both the classroom and in healing. So as a young teacher, I realized I needed to model the curiosity and the patience and the compassion that I craved when I was a student. And I loved school, but there was something that was always missing there for me. So,
Mm.
and later in healing, I had to step into that very same role to stop waiting for someone else to save me
Yeah.
and instead become the teacher who could guide myself and eventually others through the journey. And that's what
Mhm.
this book is about, is me just sharing that that of what I needed and what I learned hopefully can be a gift to somebody else who's on that same journey.
Brandi, in this chapter, you share 5 tips for being a great teacher. You talk about building trust, encouraging curiosity, modeling lifelong learning, and practicing patience, all of which you still do today. I know you did when you were a teacher. I was your grade 4 student, and now we are colleagues and friends, and I see you doing this in real life. For anyone listening or reading the book, how can they apply those lessons outside of the classroom in their own healing journey?
I love that. I think the best teachers in life are also the best students of life. And I know you and I are both lifelong students, right? We're never going to stop learning. Building trust is huge. It's huge. Encouraging curiosity, being super patient, which doesn't come naturally for everyone without conscious awareness on that patience, like taking that extra moment, that I used to call it wait time in a classroom, really listening to someone when they're speaking to you instead of thinking of what you're going to say next while they're talking, and staying open to learning, right? These aren't just classroom tools, these are healing tools. Imagine approaching your own wellness journey with curiosity instead of with fear. Like, it's a real flip, and it can make a difference overnight to just flip that one thing, or switching patience instead of frustration, which is so often what's taking place in a classroom and in a clinic, right? There's waiting that needs to happen. And if you can find, and I think I wrote something in the book about being a patient, made me realize how patient a person I had become, and that has really served me well. So if you apply those lessons inward, you become both the teacher and the student of your own healing along the way.
Both at the same time, the duality of embodying that.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that. Brandy, chapter 4 really reminds us that before we can guide others, we have to become the teacher we needed for ourselves. It has to be for ourselves first. But in chapter 5, Awakening Your Soul, you take us even deeper. Would you say this is the moment where your healing stops being just physical or mental and becoming something much more spiritual?
Yeah. Here comes the woo woo. Get ready for it.
Here
Get
comes
ready.
the woo woo. Don't miss it. Be well, everyone. See you next time.